In today's video for Wuchang Fallen Feathers, I'm going to be going over a weapon that I think will probably go under a lot of people's radars because it's one that you may well not realise just how amazing it is. You managed to pick this up very early on in the game, and I'd say it's one of the most broken weapons, and that's going to be the Darkfrost Edge. This sword is absolutely amazing, but if you're anything like me, you may have picked it up, kinda gave it a glance over, used it a little bit, and then decided it's just not that powerful. The great thing about this weapon, you can get the Darkfrost Edge very early on in the game, right near the start, around about an hour in the vicinity just before you've taken on your first boss, the Tunga. You'll know him, he's going to be this guy whenever you're opening up this door, and the area he's located in is going to be over in the Worship's Rise, and you're going to be heading up to the Light Zen Temple. What you want to do is head just over this direction. There'll be a whole bunch of enemies here for you to take out, and if you've done it properly, you probably throw a fire pot, blow them all up, and just make things a little bit easier for yourself. But just on the table right next to them is going to be the item you're after, and that's going to be the Darkfrost Edge. I used this and was not hitting very hard whatsoever, kind of switched straight off it because it was getting me into a bit of trouble, because every time I tried it, I just wasn't able to pull off the moves properly. Bear in mind, this was very early game, so I didn't know what I was doing in the slightest, and overall I switched straight back to a longsword rather than my straight sword because I found things just a whole bunch easier with it. But then I started to get used to it, looked up on the skill description exactly how I should be using it, and realised that this is one of the most broken weapons in the game. Honestly, this thing should definitely not be overlooked, because the skills you get on it are just absolutely crazy. The first one, Evasive Maneuver, gives you so many iframes, it is unreal. You could just tap LB every single time you want to dodge something, and you're pretty much going to, unless you completely screw it up. Or if you wanted to go on the offensive, after that you can tap RB a couple of times in order to pull off some damage. Most times though, I must admit personally, I don't use this weapon for pure damage unless I'm going to be using it in my magic builds at range with some magic. Instead, what I tend to do is to use it for its dodges and its evasiveness in order to get myself out of a whole bunch of trouble. As well as that though, it's also got another amazing talent on it that's called the Flickering Blade. This is really cool because it's kind of like a parry, but that lasts for quite some time, and again, it's just really great at mitigating damage. Sometimes against the toughest attacks it does make you take a little bit of damage, so you do have to be mindful, but in general this thing is just really powerful, and the weapon itself I'd say is probably the best dodge weapon currently in the game. Unless I've missed something, if I have, I'd love to hear from you, chuck it in the comments. Now when you are using these, of course you will want to build up your actual Skyball Might to use them properly, otherwise you're not going to get the full effect and you can get hit and taken out quite easily. For that reason, I think this is one of the best weapons in the game, but not to be used in your primary slot. Instead, use it as a swap to weapon whenever you want to get out of trouble or evade certain attacks or enemies' big damage. This works really well against lots of enemies, so you can have it on at all times, and it's one of the reasons that I really enjoy this game, that you can swap between at any time. I've been using this quite consistently now, and I found that it's absolutely broken in some situations, can really help you to get out of damage, but the main thing you want to do, I found, is pair it with something that can give you a whole bunch of damage in its stead, or something that again can give you a whole bunch of extra Skyball Might. For that reason, I like to pair it with the actual axe, because even though it's slower in attack, its continuous hits means you're going to get a whole bunch of Skyball Might. And as well as that though, don't forget, whenever you go over to the skill tree, you don't have to invest too much into this straight sword straight away, but one thing I would recommend would be this very first node just here, Biding Time, as that's going to generate Skyball Might over time, making things just a whole bunch easier. So you could quite easily swap to this weapon whenever you're roaming around, not taking on enemies, and gathering up Skyball Might that way. As well as how good this is as a dodging mechanic though, don't forget this is also a complete powerhouse, because you'll be able to invest heavily into it later on if you want to have it as a switch to weapon to obviously evade attacks, but also to dish out a whole bunch of magic damage. You can grab a massive amount of nodes for this, allowing you to dish out some really good damage, or if you wanted to, you could instead have it as a feathering weapon. Completely your choice. This thing is very flexible but really powerful, and like I said, I love having it as a swap to because of just how strong it is overall. I'm going to show you a boss fight, quite an early one because the game hasn't been out very long, so hopefully it won't ruin anything for anyone, and show you exactly how this performed. And bear in mind, I was very new to the game, probably like 2 or 3 hours in at this point, but it was just so much fun to have and use this weapon alongside the other one I was saying with the axe. I found that the damage you can get with the axe worked out really well, but alongside this, having this weapon, the Darkfrost Edge, really paired out perfectly with it because of just how evasive I could be and even though I wasn't the best at this point, and you probably see me get hit from time to time, it was making my life just a whole bunch easier and allowing me to get away with some combat things that I probably wouldn't have been able to otherwise. All in all, this works out as a fantastic pairing. Obviously, pick whichever ones you like. There's a whole bunch of weapons that work well together, such as the long blade. It's also another great pairing for this weapon. But definitely, in my eyes, do not forget about this weapon straight away, just because you think it's a little bit lackluster and not hitting that hard. Because overall, it's going to make your life a whole bunch easier in some of the toughest bosses, and because of how early on you can pick it up, it can make you feel very powerful as soon as you start learning its mechanics and such. But yeah, there's going to be loads more content away from me. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. As always, for all things gaming, take care. I'll see you on the next day.